With YouTube demonetizing independent media, please consider becoming a patron today for just $1 per month. Link below. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo, and I have spent a long time talking about social justice warriors on college campuses and universities, not only here in the United States, but Canada and the UK, and even going as far as to South Africa, where we've seen some really crazy stuff happen, where students there wanted to do away with Western history in order to then basically discover everything themselves. you know so it's a weird world we find ourselves in, and this story to me is nuts because what it says here is USC under federal investigation for anti-male discrimination, right? And if you've followed anything to do with the campus crazies, especially Evergreen State College and the whole Brett Weinstein situation from last year, you know that when it comes to, well, this particular subject material, men are oftentimes the bottom of the list, and they are the ones that find themselves being the most attacked simply for being born a white man or just a man in general, which is really funny because they're usually attacked by people who don't want to ever be judged by something they were inherently born as or born with because that wasn't their choice. So it's a wonderful world of hypocrisy. Let's dive into it here, shall we? So the U.S. Department of Education is officially investigating allegations that the University of Southern California excludes male students from certain educational opportunities. And look, we've heard about this for a long time. I remember when I was in high school and I was looking at grants and scholarships in order to go to college, and I would look on the bulletin board for what would be the requirement, and it was always like woman, 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 Latino, African American, mixed race, Native American. It was never anything there that would be general, open to the public or open to all students. It was very, 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 pushed to one gender or one demographic over another. And back even in the 90s, I made a comment about like how this doesn't really feel like 100% like right, but you know what, back then no one ever really wanted to talk about it, and now 20 years later we are talking about it, and well, as a result, this school is under a federal investigation. Now, a Title IX investigation was launched in response to complaints submitted by a USC professor whose efforts have already instigated similar investigations into Yale University. All right, so finally somebody is using Title IX to for something other than well, I mean, I only really hear about Title IX these days when it comes across as more or less a false accusation. Not saying that's always the case, but saying that's usually that's reported, what I see. That's why I want to clarify that point. Now, according to a January 28th letter obtained by Campus Reform, the department's Office of Civil Rights has agreed to investigate 4 USC initiatives, including the school's Smart Women Securities chapter and the Women in Science and Engineering chapter. Both of these programs allegedly discriminate by excluding male students from participation and providing opportunities for female students only, according to the OCR letter, which notes that many female-only scholarships at USC are also under investigation. And again, that's not uncommon. These particular groups, these particular chapters are not uncommon. There are many universities, and there's many more where they came from. I did talk about Evergreen State College in the day of absence last week, and the comment there was they're still doing the anti-white mentality, but they're doing it off campus in a private location, not something that I can really, get on them for because they're taking care of it themselves in a private establishment. Here's a different thing. This is a public university. You know what I mean? This is a university. So there's other rules. They can't do it on campus. Now, the OCR agreed to launch an investigation after Kursat Christoff Pekgoz, a lecturer and provost fellow at USC, filed the Title IX complaint against the institution in October 2017. Though the OCR initially dismissed the complaint, Pekgoz filed an appeal, and the dismissal was overturned just 2 weeks after his January 18th interview with an OCR official. And maybe that's the case here. Maybe there's been other Title IX complaints that have just been swept under the rug, made to go away because they don't fit the particular narrative. Now, look, I understand that there is a lot of craziness on college campuses, but not everyone who goes there is bad or jerk. And obviously people, not everyone is a bad egg, but we see a lot of these stories out of the social justice group and out of this whole particular narrative. So it becomes this very weird debate about, like exactly how things are being used. And I would argue that here, maybe I think it's a good thing this is happening. Now, OCR's agreement to consider an appeal is nearly unprecedented, Pekgoz said to Campus Reform. He says the attorney who initially dismissed it cited a Dear Colleague letter from 2016, which apparently allowed sex-selective scholarships for the underrepresented sex. Pekgoz explained, saying that he won the appeal by pointing out, unlike during the 1970s when title was put in the law, women are no longer underrepresented in higher education. That's true. 2 out of 3 college graduates are female. 2 out of 3. Men are not going to college as much anymore. Men are not going. I don't quite know what they're doing, but they're not going to higher education. They're not going to university. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we hear the reports now that student loan debt is a sexist act. It's student loan debt is sexist and it's racist because women and minorities are the ones who are going to college and then therefore seeking out that debt. I don't know if that's true. I have no backing to that point. I have heard these arguments before during my explorations and investigations on the web. So that's kind of where I'm just maybe suggesting that could possibly be one potential reason as to why. Don't know anyway. Now, it says men are now a slight minority at USC, constituting only 48% of the student body. Though data on the most recent batch of graduates has not yet been calculated, men are also in the minority of USC graduates in the 2016-2017 academic year. And it's not just there, it's literally everywhere. And it's not just recent, it's been for the last, I want to say, 2 to 3 years. Women have also outpaced men in earning bachelors since the 1981-1982 academic year, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. Since then, the gender gap has grown. By 2018, there's a projected to be 25% gender degree gap favoring women. But you'll never hear about this because but you'll hear about the gender wage gap. Never that it's a myth that has been proven false, and really it's a pay gap over a wage gap. But hey, look, let's not split hairs here. You're just never going to hear about this. Now, in an interview with Campus Reform, Pekgoz maintains that there is no longer any valid reason to maintain affirmative action for women, considering their now majority status, which is very true. He also expressed disapproval with the lack of resources colleges provide for student fathers, citing an example of how the USC WISE program offers resources to pregnant women and women with children, but offers no equivalent resource for fathers. Yeah. And as a new father, I can tell you there's not a great deal of resources available to us. There are some, don't get me wrong. There are groups and other things like that are available, and a couple things here and there, but ultimately it is not as robust. And I'm a stay-at-home dad, right? Full-time stay-at-home dad, and there's very little out there that would support me in case I needed it. And so that makes me really question what there would be like for people out there who find themselves in more dire circumstances rather than being able to work from home and raise their child. Now, in a statement to Campus Reform, USC media official Emily Gersema said USC is working with the Office of Civil Rights and will take steps to address any issues they may rise. Yeah, they're gonna take steps to address. It's probably gonna sit there and I guarantee you the OCR upon this investigation is probably gonna find that there's been no discrimination. That even though men are an underrepresented class on, they're now the minority class or gender on campus, there's going to be nothing there. This is the issue when it comes to the conversation of equity, right? And it's a lot of take but never give. There's no ebb and flow, right? There's no let's rise together. It's clearly one wanting to push a supremacy aspect of it, and that is clearly not going to go over well with these people. But I would argue that if the OCR comes back with anything less than there needs to be some kind of change to allow for now the minority gender to have access to resources and materials that they may need, it's going to be a thing. Now, the USC is committed to maintaining an environment that is free from discrimination and that it encourages fair treatment of all students, faculty, and staff, a value that is emphasized in university policies. We're going to wait to see whether or not those policies are actually followed. I at this point, I'm sorry, Emily, I don't believe you. I just don't. I've covered this stuff for years now. I don't believe you. I wish I could. I wish I could give you the benefit of the doubt, but I've seen this stuff play out the way that it does and how your kind acts on campus, you being the social justice warriors, the regressive left, and how you are pushing for some semblance of control or some semblance of equality that you already have, but you don't view it as such because of some oppression Olympics game you're playing. I don't know where you come from on this most of the time, but you do it a lot, and I always have things to talk about as a result of that. Now, it goes on to say, upon further investigation, if the OCR determines that the USC programs implemented above do indeed violate Title IX, the school will be encouraged to make those programs gender inclusive. If the school does not comply, legal action could ensue. Now, the school is obviously not going to want legal action, okay? But they probably, if they do find that they are not gender inclusive, They might do something to make it more of a token program just to skirt around the edge of the rule and then get away with it versus actually, figure out a system that works well for everybody. So then, hey, a rising tide raises all ships, right? But no, this isn't what they want. Now, Pekgoz also filed a similar complaint with Yale University. As Campus Reform reported last Monday, the OCR has also launched an investigation into 7 Yale University programs for providing unfair advantages to female students. So this is where we are right now, guys. We are in the situation where the Title IX is now being used to fight back against these programs. And again, if these organizations on these campuses claim to be for equality, claim to be for gender neutrality, then they would obviously want to find a way to work together to make sure everyone gets the help. But they're not. They're very much all about themselves. They have been for quite some time. That's not going to change. And it'd be interesting to see what happens with this federal investigation under Betsy DeVos being the Secretary of Education. I expect things to get crazy, and you can definitely expect me to cover them. But I do want to know your thoughts about this. Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Do you feel that this is a fair investigation? Do you feel that this is a long overdue investigation? Do you think they should investigate all the universities and all of these programs and all of these groups? And I bet you there's going to be a lot of people there that say yes. And do you feel that this is a witch hunt? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. If you haven't already, please thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, and support it via Patreon if you haven't already. Or if you just want to watch more videos, and I hope you do, you can do so right now.